Welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I'd like to ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember McClellan is absent. All other council members are present.
Thank you. Would you all please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a brief moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the September 10th, 2019 meeting and the agenda of the September 24th, 2019 meeting in accordance with state law, council, and housing authority policy. We have several presentations on today's agenda. Council members, would you please join me for the first item down below, and then after that we will return to our seats. I'd like to invite our new police chief, Michael Moulton, and his wife, Michelle, to join the city manager and the city clerk for the oath of office. Hi.
Good to see you, Bill.
Nice to see you again. Congratulations. Chief, nice to see you, sir. Chief, Michelle, nice to see you. Phil, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you. If I can please have you raise your right hand, and after I, you'll state your full name.
I, Mike Moulton,
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear
truth, faith, and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
or
purpose of evasion,
and
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
upon which
I am about to enter.
Their encouragement, support, and sometimes sacrifice allows me to take on this new role. I'm truly fortunate to come into this role with the tremendous support the police department receives from the mayor, city council, city manager, assistant city manager, and city staff. I know I can speak for them when I say that we are all committed to the safety of this community. I'm also very fortunate to inherit the highly skilled and dedicated men and women of the Oklahoma Police Department. Sworn and non-sworn alike, they're committed to the mission of combating crime and protecting this diverse city. They make things happen. The staff here is absolutely incredible. To the community, I can say this: you may never need us, but if you do, we'll be there. Lastly, I believe in law and order. I will be tough on crime, but compassionate and respectful to those who serve. Public safety takes trust and cooperation between the police and the public. We're going to strive to nourish and grow our existing relationships and seek to develop new ones. It is truly my honor to serve. Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation from the San Diego River Park Foundation. I'd like to invite the Chief Associate Director, Sarah Hotmacher, to the podium to share with us all about what's happening. Thank you. Sarah,
Very close.
Did I mangle your last name?
Only a little bit. Hutmacher.
Okay.
Thanks. And thanks again for having us back to share a little bit more information with you. You guys might remember that we were here in January to share some information about this project as it was first awarded. When we were awarded funding from the San Diego County Water Authority that was funding through Department of Water Resources, a Prop 1 grant. This is a planning grant, and we partnered with the City of El Cajon Earth Discovery Institute and Cal Poly Pomona to do some planning around improving the health of Forester Creek and the waterways in El Cajon, and seeing if those waterways can serve a role in increasing access to recreation and nature in El Cajon. So we've now had a chance to do a lot of that planning, and so we are excited to share a little bit of that information back to the council and Mr. Mayor. As a reminder, the project goals were to support the goals of the City of El Cajon for recreation, park development, and stormwater management, and to complete a planning that supports future investment in El Cajon. So we were working with a lot of community leaders and stakeholders in El Cajon to make sure that this plan incorporated a lot of the feedback from the community directly, as well as from city staff and other leaders. We're hoping that this will help inform a roadmap to improving the health of Forester Creek and these waterways in El Cajon and their ability to contribute to the health of the community. So the first component that we did was an outreach and education component where we worked to with Earth Discovery Institute. We did free field trips for 291 third and fourth graders to collect their feedback about parks and water and nature in El Cajon. We did outreach at 64 different events last year to make sure that we reached different members of the community and collected 1,064 surveys from those community members that were done in English, Spanish, Arabic, and Farsi. So there's a lot of information we got from those surveys, but I wanted to highlight a couple that we thought were the most interesting for what we were trying to get at, which is that 3/4 of the people recognized these creeks as they passed through El Cajon, but less than 1/3 knew that they connected to a natural waterway. So it shows that there's a big potential for increasing the health of those waterways if people had a little bit better knowledge about the impact that they have on nature downstream. We also, one of the important components, complements to stewardship and increasing awareness is preventing the trash from getting in there in the first place. So we also coordinated with the Public Works Department to engage volunteers to collect data about different Washington Channel, Forester Creek, and Broadway Channel within the city limits. And that data is going to be then turned over to a consultant that's going to be making some further recommendations about trash capture and reduction. So a couple of interesting results from those assessments where they collected about 7,500 pieces of trash. They sorted and weighed all of those different things and attributed them to a source. And when we did that, about 57% of the items contained plastic. 38% of the items were related to food and drink consumption. The number of plastic bags decreased from our surveys in the fall to our surveys in the spring by 40%, which we thought was really interesting. And we found that the worst of the trash spots were linked to homelessness, private property owners that were bordering the creek, and illegal dumping. And then you might remember when I was here before, I brought somebody from Cal Poly Pomona who was sharing a little bit about the work that they were going to be doing to do research to make some recreation recommendations. So they brought in some outside expertise in convening the public and facilitating a participatory planning process. And that way they could incorporate community feedback into the recommendations they make about how these creeks may serve to increase access to nature and recreation for El Cajon. And they've now completed a lot of that research and planning. So they've finished a plan, and we wanted to come back and highlight just a couple of the recommendations from that plan. They worked with the stakeholder committee that was a very diverse, awesome stakeholder committee. There's a lot of names that you probably recognize on this list, including one of the current council members. And that committee brought a breadth of knowledge and familiarity with El Cajon that was really invaluable to that planning process. They worked to convene 5 meetings with that stakeholder committee. We had a public workshop that was open to members of the public with about 150 members, 150 participants. And again, we conducted that survey that had some questions that also helped to inform the planning process that they worked on. So the overall concepts of this access plan that they created are not going to be super surprising. They're planning parks around pedestrian and cycling routes near schools, planning them in ways that connect to the creek. And I think the thing that is maybe especially unique to this plan is that there are ways that we can create human flow to the creek. So that diagram kind of helps to show that there's not a lot of usable right-of-way alongside a lot of these creeks, so a lot of the way that we increase that is by drawing attention to the creeks and increasing flow past and over the creeks so that we can use that as opportunities to elevate awareness. They developed a map based on the community feedback that provided some ideas of zones where these types of improvements could go. Obviously, this is just ideas of conceptually where those things would be meeting the priorities identified in the plan, not necessarily particular parcels or anything like that. This is obviously still a planning document. But this helped to inform places where there was the highest need and overlaps significantly with a lot of the work being done already by city staff. So a couple of the featured recommendations. They identified some mini projects. I'm going to go into that on the next slide that kind of identify ways that we could start to make progress towards some of these larger concepts. They recommended collaborating with some of the local grassroots organizations. The groups in particular that participated in the stakeholder committee were incredibly helpful, and we hope that they'll continue to be a part of this process as we move forward. They thought that it would be a good idea for our stakeholder committee to support 2 or 3 easily implementable pocket parks and work with city staff to support them. Identify roles for the community members, integrate that health and environmental quality aspect into this planning process, and to integrate the Forester Creek information into the K-12 curriculum that the San Diego River Park Foundation and others are already doing in the community. And in doing so, this would help to create that connected loop system of pedestrian and cycling trails and access. So these mini projects could be anything from a bench or a picnic table, an interpretive sign, a mural, something that is easy to implement because of the scale. It's not as complicated as something as large and a big infrastructure investment. And these kinds of things might be really great opportunities for soliciting community feedback and community participation. And so what's next? We're sharing these results. The access plan is going to be available on our website in its complete form, which is about a 300-page document, but we're also working to meet with people case by case to highlight parts of the plan that are most relevant to the various members of the community. The trash capture plan that I mentioned will be completed by November 30th of this year and will be shared with the city through the Public Works Department. And we're continuing to partner with the City of El Cajon and the Stakeholder Committee for opportunities to advance these collaborations. As an example, we've already secured a couple of grants for some small mini projects that will be starting, that we're starting now and will be working on in early 2020. So we're excited about those opportunities for collaboration and open to talking to anybody about any of that. I appreciate the time. Anybody have any questions for me about this?
Questions, gentlemen? Hey, last time you came, you had some young men from the university.
Yeah.
Are they here today? Or?
They graduated.
So now they're gone to you now? Are they off on you getting new people involved in the project?
They are. So we were the senior project for that group of the studio, the master's program. So they've now finished their senior project and they've all gone off to get their new jobs up in Riverside, and we'll be continuing to partner with the staff at the Cal Poly Pomona and hopefully engaging them again in the future for another project.
All right. Well, thanks for all the hard work.
Thank you. The
next item is a proclamation For the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System, I'd like to invite MTS Director of Marketing and Communications, Rod Shupp, to the podium, please. And Rob, we have a proclamation for you. I'm going to go ahead and read that if that's okay.
Would you like to read that?
If you don't mind.
Please, thank you.
Whereas October 2nd, 2019 marks MTS Free Ride Day, San Diego Metropolitan Transit System will offer free rides all day long to encourage residents to celebrate and ride the agency's buses and trolleys. And there's a lot of whereases and after that, but I'll skip that and let you tell us about what's happening.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for having me here. It's been my pleasure over the years to work with Councilmember Bob McClellan. He's a fantastic representative of your city and all things related to transit, and we've had the opportunity to work with City Manager Graham Mitchell a lot. So I really appreciate the collaborative spirit you bring to transit. Free Ride Day was born last year out of our CEO's desire to increase ridership. We had experienced ridership declines over the past couple of years, and that's due to a number of factors. But we initiated a large marketing campaign that culminated in Free Ride Day last year. And, most CEOs want, what's your goal, Rob? How many more riders are you going to get out of Free Ride Day? And I said, maybe 5%. I think if we measure it from this year to the same day last year, 5%. Well, we got 17% increase last year, 53,000 more riders. And it really is due to the collaboration that we have with the cities. So the city of El Cajon helped spread that message last year to get people onto transit. It helps cities achieve their climate action goals to get people out of cars, which are our major polluters, and onto transit to explore how transit can be part of their daily lives. So really appreciate that. We're doing it in conjunction this year with California Clean Air Day, which is on Wednesday, October 2nd. It's also Rideshare Week with Sandak. So we've got a lot of synergy. There's a lot of organizations working with us. My goal this year is to get 10% more than last year, so 60,000 new riders I want. Invite you all to come out and ride transit. It's free all over. North County Transit District is also part of it, so you can ride the trolley down to Santa Fe Depot, get on a coaster, and take a fabulous ride and explore San Diego gratis of our transit agency. So thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the proclamation.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming.
I got a question.
I think I forgot to ask questions.
I do have a question. Earlier this summer, MTS had a program, I think it was in June, where on Tuesdays you could get a reduced Lyft ride from a station to your final mile. Do you have any information you can share with us on how that went?
They always sell out. So we have a limited number of coupons that Lyft provided. So you entered the coupon and you got $5 off the ride. They limited that to a couple hundred every Tuesday, but every Tuesday we sold out. I should mention that Lyft is a partner, again, on Free Ride Day. So if you need a ride to a transit station, you can get, there's a coupon, Free Ride Day. You just enter that in your Lyft app, and they'll pick you up and give you $5 off your trip to a transit station. So that ride might be free, too. So we're trying to solve that first and last mile challenge, too, for riders. Bird is also a partner, so if you want to go downtown and ride a scooter, there's a code for that as well. So this is a big event, trying to show people how they can get around town without a car.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, next proclamation is for German American Month. I'd like to invite Oktoberfest Chairman Mike Anderson to the podium. Mike?
Hi.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good, thanks.
We've got a proclamation for you. And before you tell us all about Oktoberfest, we read a little bit of this, okay?
Okay.
Whereas October 6th is German American Day in the United States, commemorating the date in 1683 when 13 German families landed in Philadelphia. These families subsequently founded Germantown, Pennsylvania, the first German settlement in the original 13 American colonies. Since then, more than 60 million Americans trace at least part of their ancestry to Germany. And we're glad you're here and celebrating German American Month. Can you tell us what's coming up?
Well, glad to be here as well, like we are pretty much every year. I appreciate the proclamation and all of the support of the council members throughout the year and the mayors. We start this Friday. It's our kickoff. So we go the 27th to the 29th of September, and then the second weekend as well, the 4th through the 6th of October. The times vary, but it's in afternoons and the evenings, basically. We will, and I think some of you guys have already responded that you'll be joining us for our opening day parade on the 27th, which is Friday night, and I believe that's at 6:30. And so we kick it off from there. We have all the usual German beers, German food, pastries. The band that comes and joins us every year from Germany. I was watching them on Facebook as they were saying "Gute Reise," good, have a good trip, and that sort of thing as they left Germany this morning. And we just really try to keep it very traditional and family oriented. And like I said, we have all the German foods, and we don't have any tacos or quesadillas or sushi or anything like that. It's just our different German foods. However, we have a couple new things this year. It's very popular in Germany to have the chicken. We just haven't had the resources to prepare it the way we wanted to. So we are giving that a go this year and doing just on Sundays. And then there's a certain crowd that wanted a vegan. So we tested and we're going to have a vegan sausage this year. And actually I tasted it's not too bad. Not as good as the real, but it's not too bad. So.
Thanks, Mike. Lucy, any questions for Mike? Gary?
Wie geht es Ihnen?
Gut, danke.
Schöner Lederhosen.
Oh, my lederhosen? Yeah. Guess if I'm the only one wearing them, I might as well share it, huh?
That's right.
So, yeah, the ladies wear the dirndls. They're the kind of the peasant dresses with the aprons and the kind of low cut usually. And then the men's wear the lederhosen, leather pants. So,
if people wanted to get more information, is there a website or phone number? Or?
We have the best thing is to do either oktoberfestelcajon.com or the Oktoberfest in El Cajon Facebook page.
And how many people do you expect to come through the 2 weekends?
I'm always stumped on that because some of the people, probably 3,000 to 6,000 a day.
Yeah.
It's a total of six days. A lot of them are volunteers. A lot of them are members that get in free, workers. So it's quite a group just to put it on, but we get a good support through the community.
And for those of you who haven't been there, some Oktoberfests are kind of like craft fairs, but this is a real life Oktoberfest with drinking beer and dancing to the German music, and it's a lot of fun.
Yep, like pretty much everything German. We have 12 or 13 different German beers on tap, and Coors Light. And if you, like I said, all the German food and liqueurs and just music, and we have a raffle prize. We have a daily raffle that we do throughout. There's different door prizes, but our grand prize drawn the last Sunday night at 8:00 is a round trip flight for two to Germany. So $1 you could actually get a flight to Germany for two. So I've been trying for 25 years and I haven't gotten it. So good luck. But
well, I've spent some time in Germany. I'll tell you, the food at the El Cajon Oktoberfest is absolutely authentic. It's the real deal.
Well, we try, and we have a lot of critics, so if we start to stray towards too much Americanization, some of the natural-born Germans will step in and say, nine. So.
Okay, we look forward to it, Mike. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I got a couple flyers. I didn't have a ton of them, but I'll just leave them here.
Yeah, I would like to have those. Thanks. If you could just...
Okay.
Yeah, we can try for that. Okay. Our last proclamation is last but not least, we have proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. I'd like to invite Fire Chief Steve Swaney to the podium. Chief? Is he out fighting a fire? Or?
Mayor, we have several other guests from our Fire Prevention Bureau that are here tonight.
I was tired of Chief Swaney anyway, so hi, how are you doing?
Hi, my name is Alette Nash. I'm the Fire Marshal for Heartland Fire. Chief Swaney is not available today, so I'm accepting. Thank you.
Great. Well, we've got did you get the proclamation?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Hey, show everybody that proclamation. I'm going to say, we're going to read a little bit of this. Whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are greatest at risk from fire. And whereas when the smoke alarm sounds, El Cajon residents may have less than 2 minutes to escape to safety, it is important to have a home escape plan, drawing a map of each level of your home showing all the doors and windows for different ways out, and to practice it with everyone in the household, including visitors. Teach children to escape on their own in case adults can't help them. Once residents are out, they should stay out, never going back inside the home. Any other words of wisdom that you have for us about Fire Prevention Week?
Oh, yes, I do. Okay. El Cajon Open House for Fire Prevention Week is October 5th from 9 to 12. It's over at the Fire Station 6, which is on Lexington. We will have games for children. We will have demonstrations on how to safely exit a room in case there was a fire. We will have some demonstrations by the suppression side. What else?
Hands-free CPR. We're going to be teaching hands-free CPR with the East County CERT team is going to be joining us as well. We're going to be planning and practicing our 2 ways out from a room. So
Yep.
Any room you're in, you should always have 2 ways out of that room, regardless of where you're at. Just in case that one primary exit is blocked, you have that secondary exit. For example, a window if you're in your room. We'll also have a live fire demonstration of close before you doze. It's something that we are trying to train adults and children to know. It's very important to have your door closed in the event that you're sleeping and there's a fire in your room. Having that barrier between you and that fire or smoke is very
important.
Has saved a lot of lives. And
Gives
so-
you extra time to get out.
Exactly.
So,
Super. Well, I can't think of anything more important. Let me see if there's any questions. Gary?
Well, I wanted to thank you for putting out the fire by my house in Fletcher Hills this afternoon.
I think that's these gentlemen up here.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate all you do. Okay, on to agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
Mr. Mayor, the only change to the agenda is agenda item number 7 has been postponed to another meeting yet to be determined.
Thank you. Council, any agenda changes? All right, well, then I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda change given to us by Graham. Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
And that brings us to consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion, according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you want to pull any of the consent items? No? I wasn't prepared for this. I wanted to talk about consent item 6 just a little bit. Staff, did you want to pull any other consent items?
No, sir.
All right, so before we vote on consent items, staff, could you just explain to me the money, the financial part of number 6?
Certainly, Mr. Shane will come forward, our finance director, to explain.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the City Council. The renewal of the investment policy update is a process we go through every year that has 2 main components, the first of which is the City Council's delegation to the city manager as designee to invest the city's funds. Secondly, to adopt or renew the investment policy, which sets the guidelines under which we can invest that money. It's produced in conjunction with the California Government Code and sets the boundaries of what we can and cannot do as far as investing.
Are you meeting the benchmarks that you wanted to meet with your investment policy so far?
Well, that number, investment returns are never as much as I'd like them to be, but they are consistent with what other municipalities are seeing.
Are they consistent with projections?
Yes.
Okay. As long as I forgot to mention, I also wanted to ask about number 5, the incentive program, and how that affected us financially. I don't know if that would be Clay or...
Ms. Thornton addressed that.
Thank you, Clay.
So while she's coming down, as you recall, this was an effort to incentivize our hiring of police officers. It's been quite effective over the last few years, and one of the reasons that we're asking for a bit of a shift in it, and we're actually and before Ms. Thorne explains how much we've been successful, one of the things that we did in the previous program was to incentivize the hiring of a brand new officer, but also a lateral. We have a lot of new officers. I think she can touch on that in a second. So right now there's a focus on attracting laterals. So someone that's already a police officer from another agency, using that incentive to bring them over to our agency.
So how many sworn officers do we have right now?
We have, the numbers are fluctuating, about 108.
Okay. And what's the number that you want to be at?
So we fully staffed will have 124.
All right. Oh, so that's gone up a little bit since...
Yes. So we're in the process right now of filling positions. We have people in background and people's pending start dates.
Okay, great. So my only question was whether the hiring incentive program was working the way you had hoped, and what was the financial cost to the city as a result?
So the way the program worked, there's two parts. The incentive is only paid out upon completion of the academy, so that's one portion of it. Because there's a delay with the academy and the hire and the probation, we just paid out 3 incentives for the initial group. We have about 26 new hires after the program was instated. But only about half of those use a referral program. From those, only 4 were laterals. The situation, though, has changed. When we did bring this program forward, our pay was a lot lower. And with our last contract, we've caught up. Our benefits increased a little bit, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to entice laterals to come in. Part of the reason is because we have a newer workforce, so we're trying to capture laterals who bring in more experience. Just so you're aware, about 50% of our workforce for sworn are less than 10 years experience. Just under 40% have less than 5 years experience. So it's critical that now that we have a new contract with better pay and benefits, that we reach out to the laterals.
Do you feel like, even with the increase in pay, we still need the incentive program?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of thought so too, but I wanted to...
Yeah, we're still not up high like other agencies.
Yeah, keep us informed, please. Questions? Anybody? Steve?
Is the incentive enough?
We are pretty competitive with some agencies, although I have heard that there are a couple that are reviewing the incentive. We could always go back and look at it if that's something that you would like us to do.
Well, the goal is to attract officers with experience, so I think the charge is do what you need to do to make that happen, and if it means increase, then come back and ask us for more money, because public safety is what it's all about.
Okay.
I agree. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, well, that was all I had. If nobody has any objections, I'd like to make a motion then to approve consent items.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
All right, thank you. That brings us to public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council Housing Authority successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, council, authority, and agency members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any cards under public comment?
Yes, sir. We have 2 speakers. The first one is Elaine Briggs.
Hi, Elaine. Welcome.
Thank you. Afternoon to all of our council members. And Phil, I met you at the Magnolia, and welcome. I have a couple of things I'd like to bring up. The first is at the end of Gillespie Field runway, there is a stone sign that has been put up with the words Gillespie Field and El Cajon underneath it. And I talked to Graham. He knows nothing about it. I'm not sure anybody knows anything about it. I don't know who put it up. But there are weeds growing there, and it's not finished, and it's an eyesore. So across the street is the nice Taylor Guitar sign with plants. And on this side of Cuyamaca and Marshall is this eyesore. And if I think it belongs to El Cajon, what does everybody else think? So that's my first issue. My second issue that I'd like to bring up is this week I used the website to put in a parking violation with regard to a house in our street, which is a hoarder house. And there was a trailer that was parked out there for at least 3 weeks, loaded with junk. And I took pictures of the trailer, and I was going to email them to both Gary and to City Parking Enforcement. And I was using my iPad to do so, except the iPad will not accept the pictures from the iPad. It gives you this error message, which makes absolutely no sense. I tried doing it 3 different times, and then I finally gave up and just sent it without the pictures. Since many people today are using their iPhones, iPads, tablets, Androids as their main computer, I think maybe your IT department needs to look into this so that those of us who want to help out the city with our concerns can do so. Thank you.
First off, thank you for telling Graham. You can take care of that.
I can respond to a few of those items, too. Since Ms. Briggs brought up the sign at the end of Gillespie Field, I've actually found out a little bit more through the use of technology. It does not owned by the city. It is being installed by the county or by Gillespie Field. We'll reach out to them and make sure that that project looks cleaner and gets accomplished. In terms of the reporting program that we currently have, we're aware that our program is antiquated. It's one of the reasons why staff actually met this morning, along with the assistant city manager, evaluating different types of programs, and we'll be bringing forward to the city council a new app that will be more compatible with cell phones and iPads and computers.
Thanks. I think.
All right. Thank you very much.
Lucy, any other questions?
Steve?
I agree with you. I tried to do the same thing on my iPad, and it is frustrating, and that's not a good experience for the public who's trying to help you out.
That's right.
This new app is, I think, going to have features similar to the city of San Diego, in which I used it, and it just knows where you are geographically, so it tags your geo-coordinates instead of having to describe it's the third driveway from the bottom of the blue house or the top of, kind of thing. It just says, here's the geo-coordinates, here's a picture, do it, a couple of swipes, and you're done. So I think we're probably more than halfway there to getting that out to the people of El Cajon.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Graham, for the info.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Okay. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Jim Sirigliano.
Hi, Jim.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, staff. Just real quickly, congratulations to Chief Moulton. I had the pleasure by accidentally running into his mom and one of his brothers here, and it was very nice. Excuse me. In the same vein, I had a phone call just before I came over here from Marcy Finley, who volunteered with the police department for many, many, many years. And last year she was given a luncheon and received a wonderful plaque from the city also. She's doing well. She's living in Florida with her family. So I thought I'd just mention that there. About Dr. Bonnie Price, she mentioned 2 meetings ago about getting a woman on the city council, which I'm all for next year. I would like to see it happen. I think it would really add a lot to the city. Public transportation, I use it all the time, especially the trolley. Park in the parking lot and go where I have to go. And being a senior, I get a great discount. Excuse me. In all the times that I've been here, I speak about a lot of things. And I just want to remind the council staff that when I come up here and I speak, we're in this all together. I'm not here to be confrontational, just as a reminder, okay? And it's a matter of trust, which was much needed right now, nationwide, citywide. I think it's one of the biggest problems. Talking about, I just just in general, about CAP. Okay, I don't know why we're in litigation about CAP, because it just seems to me that the council would just say, we'll go for the 2030, we'll say, and if you fall short, so what? But I would think that this litigation thing really isn't necessary. I don't like to see it happening. And then again, about my favorite subject, Forms 460 and 700. And every time I speak about these here, I don't get any response back. And it's a public information that should be on the website, under the transparency, so that people, I know it helped me out last year when I found out certain things, helped me make decisions about who I wanted to vote for. Okay, and I don't understand why there is no response from anyone when I speak about it, and I will continue speaking about it. But so with that, I guess that's it. My time is up. But if anyone would like to address it, I still think it should be presented sometime and voted on, and this should be on the webpage. It's a service to the community. It's public information, and I don't understand why it shouldn't be. Any questions? No
questions.
No. Okay. Thank you very much for your time again. Sure.
Okay, that's that.
No more cards, sir.
All right, there are no written communications on today's agenda, and there are no public hearings. We had an administrative hearing, item 7, but it's been postponed till October 8th at 3 o'clock. And hold on. It's called like a long one. Administrative reports. We have a couple of administrative reports on today's agenda. Item 8 is the first quarter budget amendment for the fiscal year 2019 through 2020. Staff, would you tell us about this, please?
As Mr. Shane is coming to the dais, I failed to mention that he's also our city treasurer, which was more applicable to agenda item 6, which is pulled. So,
hi again.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council. Today's item is a routine administrative function containing 2 actions, the first of which is the appropriation of carryover funding from the previous fiscal year, and the second is to address a few new emerging issues that we've encountered since the adoption of the budget in June. The first of these actions is the reappropriation of approximately $2.9 million of previously approved funding from last year. The majority of this is for the continuing programs and projects related to CDBG and home. This is the mechanism we use to carry these budgets forward. The annual budget included new monies. These are the appropriations for the continuing programs. The remainder of the items associated with this action are items that pertain to the acquisition of supplies and services, where the timing anticipated of these acquisitions did not coincide with the budget process. For example, if a department ordered 10 widgets, they did not budget it in FY20 because they expected it to come in June, and it didn't show up until July. This is the tool we use to move the money forward into the following year. So there are no new appropriations related to this part of the action today. The second part contains 3 items that have come to our attention since the adoption of the budget. The first of which amends the FY20 budget for increased SANDAG membership fees. Last year, SANDAG membership fees for the city of El Cajon totaled approximately $17,000. In the budget, we anticipated a minor growth in these fees, and it budgeted approximately $19,000 for that purpose. However, when these assessments were made and invoiced, they totaled approximately $35,000, which was approximately 100% increase from the previous fiscal year. What is proposed as part of this action is an increase in appropriations of approximately $16,000 funded by general fund reserves. The next item is a simple restructuring. Typically, we include economic development costs in the city manager's budget. However, as these activities have increased over the years, It has complicated the transparency of both the city manager's budget as well as the economic development activities. What this proposes is separating these into two separate buckets for better visibility of each program. There's no additional costs as part of this proposal. It just simply creates the organizational structure to separate them. The last item proposes establishing additional funding to support the subsidization of public shows at the Magnolia. Specifically, when the City Council determines that it is necessary to support community groups in schools, this would provide the funding to do this. Now, I want to clarify that this does not address to whom this subsidy would be extended. That's to be decided by action of the City Council at a later date. It's simply making the funding available for when that occurs. We propose an increase of appropriations of approximately $30,000 funded by general fund reserves. That concludes my brief overview of this action, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions? Yeah, Steve?
I think it's a great idea to separate out the economic development. I noticed in this year's budget, the city manager's budget was approximately $1.1 million higher than last year. People would say, oh my gosh, what is happening in the city manager's office? So as not to cast kind of a Graham's going on a spending spree kind of a situation, to separate his administrative activities with the economic development is a good move in transparency. As far as the Sandag, whether we're getting our money's worth out of that at this point is debatable. I think the $30,000 for the Magnolia is interesting because it's not a use it or lose it, but it doesn't. We don't want it to carry over. We don't want $30,000 this year to become unused and be $60,000 next year. We want communities to come say, can we have part of this subsidy? We want community groups to come use the Magnolia. I want that $30,000 to be used up this year and not be $60,000 next year. So we want to get the word out to community groups. Come on, let's talk.
Thanks. And just so you know, I did argue against that, and I voted against increasing those fees, but they didn't listen to me. So I think that does it. Thanks very much. Good report. Okay. All right, Angela, do we have any speaker cards on this item?
No cards, sir.
Okay. Any further discussion, or would someone like to proceed with the motion?
All right, so moved.
Second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
There are no commission reports on today's agenda. We are now at activities of the mayor and council. Item 9 is my activities report. It is as reported. Item 10 is a legislative report, and I will ask Assistant City Manager Vince DiMaggio to give us an update on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There's several items to report on. As you know, the session ended on September 13th. The governor has until October 13th to sign all bills that have come onto his desk. A couple of updates. I'll probably provide a more comprehensive update at our next meeting because I'll know if he has signed all of these bills. SB 5 is the redevelopment, resurrection of redevelopment, if you want to call it that. It's with the governor. We remain, cautiously optimistic about this. The one hitch in this that I think is the big question is, well, actually there's two. It appoints a statewide commission to review all proposed redevelopment projects that seek funding. That's a kind of a political appointee situation. And secondly, it awards the money from the ERAF. That's the Educational Revenue Augmentation Fund. And that, if you have recalled, has been rated a couple of times in the 90s and the early 2000s. It is protected by this piece of legislation. It's protected by statute to be reimbursed through state general fund. Now, that is good in concept, but so were the last two times that ERAF money was used. So it's got promise as a piece of legislation. We could certainly submit projects that the council and the staff feel are qualified for this and have it considered by this board that comes out of this piece of legislation. And then we need to pay attention to how the ERAF money is put back, if the ERAF money is put back, because main school funding comes from the ERAF funds. So we're cautious, we're optimistic about it, but it's a step towards redevelopment in a different kind of redevelopment 2.0, if you will. We'll see if the governor signs it. SB 13 is something that was opposed by the League of California Cities. This is about accessory dwelling units. It does not require replacement of parking for converted garages, for example, so that no on-site parking required. So this would increase parking on the residential street for people who choose to propose to convert their garages to an accessory dwelling unit, which is allowable under this piece of legislation. The current law requires that you be the owner-occupant of the property if you build an accessory dwelling unit. That requirement is removed with this piece of legislation. It regulates when a city can mandate separate utility connections. This is something we've actually run into here in El Cajon over the past year that has come up with accessory dwelling units in some of the older parts of the city and grandfathered units and things like that that did have a separate utility line, and we mandated that they would need a separate utility line. So the issue is not as simple as I think the law seeks to make it. It is an important element to make sure that if we have an accessory dwelling unit, we have the capacity to support that unit. So it does require some analysis on the city's part. It also requires HCD, Housing and Community Development, which is a state department, to approve any local agency's ADU ordinance. So to the extent that any changes are required to implement this new accessory dwelling unit ordinance, we would have to eventually get approval from the state of California on this. This has not been signed by the governor yet. It's on the governor's desk. SB 230 was signed by the governor. It was the companion measure to AB 392, which was something that was opposed until PORAC, this is the Police Officer Research Association of California. You'll remember I reported on that in the last meeting. They were able to alter AB 392 to make it more acceptable in terms of when deadly force could be used. This is the companion measure that came out of the Senate. It requires that cities maintain a policy that sets forth guidelines for the use of force, de-escalating techniques, alternatives to the use of force, and specific guidelines for the use of deadly force. It requires implementation by 2021, and PORAC was actually in favor of this. And I'm sure that we do maintain a series of guidelines, and we will just have to take a look at these guidelines, or have to take a look at our guidelines to make sure that they're abiding by SB 230. The last thing I want to report on is an executive order that was signed by Governor Newsom, and I bring this up. It involves the divestment of PERS funds from fossil fuel type investments. I bring that up not because it affects our pensions, but it could, but the idea that the unfunded mandate and the city's portion that they pay into PERS is predicated upon certain investment return thresholds being met. So right now, PERS is assuming an 8% annual return on their investments. So by shrinking the categories of allowable investments, it's going to be harder and harder for them to reach that threshold, that 8% per year threshold. And if they don't reach the 8% per year threshold, more pressure will be exerted on cities and their match to the PERS funds, and it could influence the unfunded mandate. So the unfunded mandate is a bell curve, as we've talked about this before. We expect it to level off, assuming the 8% return. We expect it to level off and even kind of retract a little bit in the next several years, assuming they hit their investment marks. By removing a certain category, which is theoretically a good thing, I know what they're trying to do with this, but by shrinking the number of acceptable categories, it makes it more difficult for them to meet the threshold. So that's an executive order. And as I said, I will report on more bills that we get word on here at the next meeting.
Any questions? Vince, I have a question. I'm concerned about the bill that outlines the protocols for use of force in the police department. Certainly, it makes sense to have protocols about step by step, but you could also see where it'd be a problem if things escalated so quickly that you had to skip several steps and move on to a higher. Would that put us in a situation where in court they could deconstruct that and say, well, you didn't do step number 2, you didn't do step number 5?
Mayor, I think there's always that potential with both 392, AB 392, and SB 230. SB 230 is more of a requirement of a statement of policy. AB 392 is more of how police officers are expected to operate in practice. But I think that there's always going to be a risk of someone questioning whether or not we followed policies consistent with 230, or whether a particular incident, the use of force was done in consistent with 392. So I don't think there's a panacea out there, and I think that just these attempts to try and change or legislate the actions of police officers become problematic over time.
Yeah, so obviously we can't control what happens legislatively, but we're going to have to think about it as a city, how much training we're going to have to provide so that officers know what their rights are, because they've got to be able to think about their own safety without worried about being prosecuted for missing a step.
Right.
Steve?
Kind of a different question. As a charter city, how do these kind of laws, do we have to, what's the difference between a charter city and a general law city when it comes to these kind of laws?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because almost in every case now what we're seeing is the first line of every piece of legislation says this shall apply to charter cities as it does to general law cities. So that there is very little distinction, and the state is doing this on purpose, obviously. The legislature is doing this on purpose to try and eliminate the line between charter cities and general law cities.
Okay, thanks for a comprehensive report. I appreciate that. Councilmember Kendrick.
As reported.
Deputy Mayor Steve Goebel.
As reported.
Councilmember Phil Ortiz.
One correction. There was, on September 24th, no government affairs meeting for the San Diego East County Chamber of Commerce.
Thanks. There are no joint council member reports on today's agenda. Item 15 is for informational purposes only. And for the public, that is donations to the animal shelter. So we very much appreciate that. There are no first readings of ordinances today. Item 16 is the second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 2.24. And I'll ask our city clerk to read the title. But first, Angela, are there any speaker cards for this item?
No cards, sir. And the title is an ordinance amending Chapter 2.24 of Title II of the El Cajon Municipal Code to eliminate the Veterans Commission, Commission on Arts and Culture, and Human Relations Commission.
Okay, great. Would you recite the title there? Is that? That's all done. Okay. It's pretty much just house cleaning, folks. We didn't have any speaker cards. Gentlemen, did you want to speak about this today? Okay. All right. Any thoughts or concerns? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve the amendment to the El Cajon Municipal Code.
Second.
Moved and second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
Well, we certainly appreciate our veterans. We appreciate the work they did on the commission. This is just an easier form to handle these kind of issues, and we thank everybody for being flexible and working with us. And please report back to us how it's working. Make sure that everything's up to your standards. Thanks, sir. All right, we are now at closed session. Mr. City Attorney, will you please recite the title and lead us into closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will meet in closed session on one item, a conference with legal counsel for existing litigation pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9. The name of the case is Climate Action Campaign versus City of El Cajon.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion then to adjourn to closed session.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote.
With your permission, I'll have to reset the vote. Please vote. Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to closed session. It shouldn't take very long. We'll be back and conclude the meeting. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back from closed session. I'd like to ask our city attorney to inform the public what happened in closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. The City Council met in closed session on item number 17 for a conference with its legal counsel as described in the agenda, and no action was taken.
This brings us to the adjournment. The adjourned regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 24th day of September 2019, is adjourned till Tuesday, September 24th, 2019 at 7 o'clock p.m. We'll see you all tonight. Thank you.